there's two.
Right, only because I have a real problem with canned music. Welcome, everyone, to the kickoff party for the Instructor Session of the eLearn Success Series. My name is Ladek. I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Christian Duque. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. We're excited to have everybody here. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, May 3rd. And as people, anybody who's been with us for any amount of time knows what we like to do here is we like to take this opportunity to get everybody excited and psyched for what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day, which is the instructor session of the eLearn Success Series. Before we get things started, I'm going to wait for a little bit to bring people into the room. Hopefully we'll have some people join us tonight. I see there's a couple people there. We're showing that there's quite a few people there on the YouTube channel. If you're there listening to us right now, tell us, love to hear your name if you're willing to share, or we'll see your username at least, but tell us where you're dialing in from. Are you in the US? Are you in Europe? Are you in Australia? Are you in some other part of Asia? Are you in Africa? You in Europe? I don't know. Put it in the chat there on YouTube, because that's where you should be watching us right now. And let us know who you are. I'm personally, if you have not met me before or seen me before, I am dialing in, which also shows my age, from Ciudad de Mexico, from the city of Mexico in Mexico, the country of Mexico, where it is fantastic in springtime. I actually just had a meeting earlier from another gentleman who's in Argentina, and he reminded me that it is cold for them in the southern part of the world there. And Chris, where are you from? Where are you dialing in from?
Hi, everyone. I'm dialing in from Bogota, Colombia. This beautiful chaos, which is not that different from Mexico City or Buenos Aires or Bangkok.
Yeah. So
there's
wild.
a lot of energy,
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. We've had this I know while we were sitting in Bangkok, we've had this while we've been in different parts of the United States. We've done it here in Mexico. We've had these things all over the world. It's pretty fantastic. And we've had guests. Ooh. I'd like to welcome Anwar Riza. You're coming from Mexico as well. Fantastic. Mucho gusto. It's very nice to have you join us. From Melbourne, Australia. It's 10 a.m. there. And I don't know what Sweffy means. I don't know. That could be Stephen Weffy. That could be Stephanie Steweffy. I don't know.
Steweffy, or just
So nice to see you again. Just like Anwar and Swefi, if you're coming in and joining us, we're gonna take the first 5-10 minutes here, let people come into the room. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're watching us from for this kickoff party for the eLearn Success Summit. The Instructor Session specifically for the eLearn Success series. I apologize. I am still in my brain calling it the eLearn Success Summit, which is what we did in Steph. Look at that. And my first name is Steven, so I don't know. Maybe we're of the same kindred spirit. Who knows? Maybe we have the same spirit animal. I don't know. I'm psyched. Tomorrow we have, I guess tonight we're going to be giving away some all access passes, or this morning in Swefi's case, we're going to give away some all access passes. We're going to be talking about our sponsors. We're going to be talking about each of the speakers that we have. There's 13. We have 13 speakers that are going to happen here over the next sort of 36 hours, which are really exciting. And we're going to be talking about how we continue to evolve the series in response to feedback we receive from our audience, which is fantastic. I'm seeing more and more people come into the room right now. If you have just joined us, please tell us, where are you from? We've got people from Mexico. We have people from Australia. I'd like to see, are we seeing other people, United States, other parts of Latin America, Europe, Africa, where else? If you just throw them in the chat there on YouTube, we do see them. And we'd love to have you join us here. Chris, what's the most important thing in e-learning today right now? What's that on the top of mind for you? As I ask you that question right now, someone who literally lives and breathes this every day, what's the top of mind for you in e-learning right now?
Fun.
Fun. Okay.
And
Tell me about that.
We were talking about this in the our web series of building a live how to win the World Cup online course. There's a couple of words that are kind of related and kind of not, and are kind of useful and kind of not. And I was thinking about this, and I said, I want this event to be kind of a show and tell. So I want people to realize whether, I want people that after this event, they say, oh, this was fun, interesting, exciting. So I'm kind of betraying myself by mentioning those terms beforehand. But I don't know.
You're also setting yourself some serious expectations. I mean, fun, although I find what I find really interesting is the term edutainment has been around for decades now, right? And it's really interesting how important that term has become, but also it's just how much we've been trained to expect education to be fun and learning to be fun, almost everything to sort of have that glow to it. I wonder often how often people kind of say, you know what, I don't really want this to be fun. I kind of want this to be serious. I want this to be in depth. I want to take the time and step back and marinate on it, right? Before you answer that, I want to say hi to James Smith. Hello, it's very nice to see you. James, where are you dialing in from? Again, I keep telling me nobody dials in anymore, but where are you calling where are you calling us from? Aura, one of our colleagues. It's very nice to see you here as well. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, so what do you think, Chris? What about learning being serious, being a thing that
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying that this has to be fun, but then, and it doesn't have to be, or does it? That's an open question. My question is, what would make this the best possible experience for the audience? And I know each person has their own expectations, their own takeaways. So is it, and I mentioned fun because I was just speaking to a colleague who's going to join us tomorrow, and she was very confident about fun encompasses a lot of those things, and just what you mentioned here, engagement, exactly, engaging, fun, exciting, what does it mean? Do we want this? I don't know. But the other kind of part of the answer for the question that you just asked of what's like the most important or the most talked about topic in e-learning today, for me, is like connection or human connection. And I guess that can happen with or without fun. Sometimes it needs to happen because fun is impossible. And I think of all the different crises many people are living right now. And you do walking through a line of how do we help people, and how we use education and technology to help people in actual ways, and how light can that be, or is it better not to be light if we're talking about something like serious? I don't know. I mean, I don't know, I hope that the answer
you know how to get you know how to get deep into the deep philosophy fast.
No, I don't. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to do that. What I'm saying is that we hope this event is just like a box of different things for everyone, and I hope that anyone can find something that they can take away. That doesn't have to be what I'm saying or what I expect for me or for other people.
100%, and that's, so I guess that's. So let me ask one final question before we get this started, because we're at 10 past the hour now. But what is, I'll ask this to James, to Ara, to Swefi, to Anwar as well. Like, what is the greatest challenge for instructors and teachers and professors today? It could be in education writ large, but specifically in online learning. Like, we've gone through these 2 years of the pandemic, almost, we're well into the almost third year. What is still that greatest challenge that you hear all the time, or that you experience all the time, or that is, it's your thing? What is that? What is that challenge? So right there in the chat, and let's get this party started, I guess. As we usually said, let's talk about, why we're here right now. We're here to kick off the instructor session of the eLearn Success series, which is right here. It's our second of 4 sessions. But let's talk about why it's important. So why it's really important is that we've arrived now at what everybody knows is this, this new normal, right? We're never going back to the way things were after the last 2 years. As we had the head of the Learning Guild, David, it's the largest community of online of learning professionals, really, in the hot seat. He was saying, look, the one word that he is hearing from everybody and that is talked about by everyone is hybrid. And it's something that everyone in the learning universe is not only becoming comfortable with, but just sort of is preparing for and assuming is normal going forward. And by hybrid, we mean sometimes you're going to be online. Sometimes you're going to be in person. Sometimes it's going to be a mix of online and in person. Sometimes it's going to be micro learning. Sometimes it's going to be, completely offline. Sometimes it's going to be synchronous, asynchronous. All of these things are now what we expect. And e-learning has moved officially from sort of the gimmick, the, nice to have, the, hey, let's do that remote learning session, as sort of, hey, a one-off kind of thing, to it's, about now part of, business plans. It's now a part of business models. It's now a part of, complete, online offerings for universities, for schools, for corporations alike. And that means that, as that landscape has evolved, OpenLMS, which is the company that we work for, we want to find a way to continue to develop this community, to develop the professionals that are in the community, to develop the learners that are in the community, to develop people who contribute to it, not only the technology, but the processes, the thinking, the techniques, the skills that everyone's using in order to deliver the best outcomes and the best results from this hybrid universe that we're in. I like it. So I took the note here that, rather than necessarily moving, into chaos and then sort of moving through chaos and now, sort of finding ourselves in a place of normalcy, or back to a place of normalcy, we actually find ourselves in a place of, in some ways, even more uncertainty. And so the eLearn Success Series is a way for us to start to continue to build that norm and to build that foundation that we can all stand on to create, normalcy and confidence and, success for everyone. That's why we call it the eLearn Success Series. Just want to give a, shout out. So Sweffy, thanks, maintaining learner focus and accounting for wide ranges of digital literacy. I'd love to unpack that a little more. Like, I wonder what you mean by wide ranges of digital literacy, but maintaining learner focus and accounting for, maintaining learner focus is the first part. And then accounting for wide ranges of digital literacy. Oh, I think I understand what you mean by that. By just basically saying, you're saying that one of the biggest challenges is that different people come to this hybrid universe with different levels of understanding. Hey, what do I click on? How do I navigate this? How do I go find that information, bring it back? How do I contribute, etc. Learner focus. That's a huge one. We had the 2021 summit, as we called it back then, was entirely on engagement and how, a big portion of that was how do we maintain learner focus. And Wariza, the challenges you have: a great user experience in the user, so great user experience, UX, invaluable innovation, attention conquering, efficiency, effectiveness of remote teaching and learning, a good cost benefit ratio. Ooh, lots of good things to put on the table. Thank you very much, Anwar. Super cool.
And
go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say that we are, in a way, continuing a conversation that started in February with the design. And I think the design session set a lot of good grounding in terms of what's out there to use, what's out there to plan, to prepare. I was going to say that things like digital literacy and so on, we only not only saw tools to like create experiences and so on, but also to plan and understand the audience. There were a lot of talks that were like took that step back, which I think is necessary to understand things like the digital literacy and how it varies. And I hope that we can continue this conversation that started. So we have sort of a grounding of the technologies, the tools at our disposal. Now, the questions that I hope we discuss in this couple of days is how do we use them to actually address people, to connect with them, to make them feel heard, to provide them what they're looking for, whether it's fun or not.
Awesome. So we have, we sort of laid the groundwork. Like, so these are the problems that we have. And I really appreciate James and Sweffy and Anwar for, putting your challenges on the table there. If you're just joining us or you're, you just come into the room, we're looking for your challenges to, what professors, teachers, instructors, are facing today in this hybrid environment. Throw them in the chat there. Also tell us where you're joining us from. That'd be great. As Chris alluded to, we've been doing this for a while. We did have our design session in February. I'll talk about that in a second, but this is actually the third year that we're running the series /summit. Chris and I have had the honor of actually running this series for since 2020. And in 2020, it was the time when everybody was in that crisis mode of what the heck just happened? We're all online. How do we actually do this? And that's what we talked to. We had 5,000 people join us, just a little more than 5,000 people, really just talking about the basics of what is online learning, what is ed tech, what are LMSs, what is, how do you engage learners? What's the difference between, putting a course online and actually developing something new? And that was over 3 days. And then in 2021, we had another, 3-day event where, again, more than 8,000 people joined us. And that was where we tried to crack the code on learner engagement. This is what we were just talking about now. We had 70 sessions. And there's a reason why I'm kind of putting those numbers on the table, because all of that content still exists, right? We recorded all the presentations, we recorded all the conversations, and they're all available in the All Access Pass members area, which we'll be getting to in a little while here. But those are really key pieces as about what we've done in the past. You can see right here. Here's the All Access Pass members area, right? But we'll walk through that a little later on. The thing I mentioned earlier, though, is that we Chris and I and the rest of the team at Open LMS and formerly LMS Pulse, we listen to what people tell us every year. And so, the first year we listened to the feedback, and that's how we got to engagement. After engagement, this is how we got to where the series is. And that's where we're breaking it into 4 separate sessions that are really focused on these topics of design in February, instructors or instruction right now here in May. We're going to be looking at ed tech and data science in July. And then we have our innovation session that will be in October of this year. This year, what's really, really awesome is that these 4 events, just as we're doing right now, they're all interactive. They all each presentation has lots of time for question and answer. Everyone can join for free, just as they usually can. And we also offer you free access to our e-learning community as well. Before I thank our sponsors, anything that you want to touch on as well from the February session? Like, I felt like the February session really came off even better than we had anticipated, just because the conversations were really super focused. The entire day was about design and instructional design specifically. And it varied from high-level conversations around strategy and timeless design to getting really, really into the weeds with people like Ted Curran, talking about, creating animations, through PowerPoints and stuff like that. Any other comments that you want to have there, Christian?
Just to say that I think the first one was a lot more leisurely in terms of if it's about ideation, it's about creativity. So you have limitless resources to think or to put things or remove at your end. Whereas this one, there are not that many luxuries in that sense, because we're talking about, okay, now is the time where you are actually interacting, where you are managing attention, or where you are trying to see if somebody's with you, is connecting with you. So this, I feel like we take it up a notch when it comes to instruction. So I'm interested to see how we can sort of
amp it up,
the events. Yeah.
Take it to 11. Before we dive into the meat of what the instructor session is going to be all about, we want to definitely thank our sponsors. Our platinum sponsor is obviously Open LMS. That's the company that we work for. Our gold sponsor is IntelliBoard, a long-term partner of Open LMS and many, many other many other organizations in the EdTech universe. We're going to be seeing and hearing a lot from IntelliBoard over the next 36 hours here. Great people to work with. We also just recently had a fantastic podcast / hot seat with Amy Price and
Kate.
What was her family name? Oh man, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. I really apologize right now. Where we talked about, how do you implement data, using data within your institution. How do you get started? How do you make it accessible? How do you, just be realistic about implementing it? How do you be successful with it?
Becky Keith.
Becky Keith. Thank you very much. Look at that. The man on the stick right there. Fantastic. Our silver partners are iSpring and Respondus. Happy to have with us. We actually have a speaker from Respondus tomorrow as well. Ari Sauers. She's going to be, talking about how do you, I don't want to use the word proctor, but that's what it is. At the end of the day, how do you ensure the effectiveness of online assessments or assessments that you give online? And then we also have our bronze sponsors, which are Open Sesame and Sumati. And we also have a speaker from Sumati as well, a gentleman named Raul Rivera. And Chris, you'll be able to talk about him in a few minutes here. And then our official media partner is eLearn Magazine. eLearn Magazine is also, it's a resource out there like no other in the e-learning universe, in that it's deeper conversations around how to do e-learning effectively. And really, we encourage everybody. They'll be covering all of the talks that we have, reproducing them and kind of repurposing the conversations that we have, and then putting them online.
There's actually, sorry to jump in, but there's actually a couple of articles based on the talks from the design session. There's one about Mark Parry, who talked about timeless design, and one about Jane Bossert, which was our opening. So please check out elearnmagazine.com.
Fantastic. I just want to remind everyone, right now we're going to be giving away a couple all access passes over the next, sort of 30 minutes here or so. So stick around. We do have we have a couple pieces of trivia that we throw out there in order to win an all access pass. But that is what we'll be doing. And so I'm going to give Chris and I just a few minutes here to explain who we are and why you care. If you've been listening to us for any amount of time, Chris and I have actually been doing this, as I said, for such a long time. Sometimes I feel a little remiss in going back, but you have to remember that, you're always meeting new people. I'm the principal of e-learning advocacy at OpenLMS. This is what we do. I host the e-learning hot seat in the podcast, as well as the summit here, the e-learn success series. I'm also an adjunct instructor at American University in Washington, D.C. I mentioned that specifically just because, our largest audience are higher education professionals. And I just like to mention, I get all the emails from AU as well. I get all of the, from the proctor, from the HR, from, how to design a course to, in our case over at AU, it's, how do you develop things in Canvas? And, they just switched over from Blackboard to Canvas. There's, how do you get your students to engage with you in a class and then, download the assignments and upload? I get all of it. And, I get those emails, I participate in it. And so I come to the summit as an instructor myself, and the realities of what it means to actually deliver online there. Chris, why don't you tell us who you are?
Right, so I'm the digital coordinator of content communities for OpenLMS. I am the editor-in-chief of LMS Pulse, which is a small publication where we like to just cover what's happening in all things e-learning and related. It's more like a playground to the more serious and standard e-learn magazine. And then I do this, just try to be involved in any opportunity to interact with the community. We have because of eLearn and LMS Pulse, and because of OpenLMS has this willingness to support the community at large. My community is the e-learning professionals at large, but we also do a lot of outreach and work with the clients, the community of clients, which I believe is the largest. We have the largest community of open source LMS clients in the world, with I think like 1,700 clients from really all over the world.
Más o menos. Yeah.
So that's my job, to engage, to connect, to build bridges in a way with the different parts of this really great company, which is really a joy because all I do is just meet fantastic people almost every day.
That's fantastic. So, well, let's talk about this nice company here, OpenLMS. OpenLMS, they provide, or we provide, world-class LMS solutions that empower organizations to meet education and workplace learning needs. There's two products that we put out there: OpenLMS EDU and OpenLMS Work. And as Chris says, it literally powers almost 2,000 schools and offices around the world. But it's much more than just sort of an LMS service provider. We do custom solutions. We have consulting that we do. We provide tons of training. We work, really specifically kind of hands-on with each of our clients. That's all part of our, the sort of the customer success focus that we have within our team. And so, go check us out, openlms.net. Let's talk about a couple of things that you get before we dive into the speakers themselves. Like, one of the things that everybody should have gotten when they signed up was the e-learning journal. Chris, do you have that one teed up?
Yep.
So something that happens a lot is that we're all overwhelmed with sort of email and work and Slack messages and Teams messages and this and that. It's hard to sort of take that time to focus for something like this. And so we wanted to build a resource that would allow you to just sort of say, look, I've got this. I'm going to, carve out the time to watch sessions 3, 5, 7, and 8. And then what are my takeaways from that? And so everyone who signs up, we automatically send this to you, the e-learning journal. You can see there, it just gives you an opportunity to say, what is Nick Furman going to be talking about in, celebrating incredible moments? What's Kevin Kelly going to be talking about? What is Vanessa Herron going to be talking about? And gives you an opportunity, just a real easy space to take some notes, because what we know as education professionals, if you don't ingest the materials, if you don't put it into your working memory and then, put it into your long-term memory and then actually do something with it, then, it's kind of worthless. You kind of just went to an event and you're not going to really get anything out of it. And our goal is to make sure that what we have here is actually really tangible and gives you something that you can walk away from and use in your classroom tomorrow. So one resource we have here is the e-learning journal. A second resource. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to add that last time around we had they could have been a lot more, but a lot of people shared like whatever they had, their key points from some of the talks that they like the most. I hope to see more of that. So it's because, again, we come from a diversity of backgrounds, diversity of skills or digital literacy, as Steffi pointed out. It's always fun to contrast how different takeaways we have from the same kind of content. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if the next resource you were going to bring up was the community.
It's true. Exactly. So yeah. So the second thing that I wanted to point out was the community. So, we've created we have something called the eLearn community. It's an open and free and, available community to anybody who wants to use it. If you go to openlms.net, there's a link at the top of the page that says resources. If you go down there, it's just communities on there, or you can just go to elearnsuccessseries.com/community. It'll take you right there. There's even a thread, as you can see, specifically created just for the eLearn Success Series. So that's what we use to talk about, or that's the thread that we use to talk about everything that's in the series here. But I think, Chris, you really hit the nail on the head, is that everyone comes to the series and each of the sessions from different places in the world with different needs, different expectations. And so they walk away from each of the presentations with different pieces or different takeaways. It's always super cool to not only get their feedback, but also receive those messages of, hey, this was important to me, or that was important to me, because it's always a surprise. In some cases, you're like, yes, there's that aha moment. In other cases, it's just really interesting to see, what people take away. And I'll just remind you, if you're kind of new to this conversation right now, literally the one that we're having right now, over on YouTube, tell us where you're from. Tell us what your name is. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what your greatest challenge is in e-learning right now, and help us join the conversation. We've had people from Melbourne, people from Mexico, people from Bogota join us. But tell us who you are and where you're at. And I'm in Mexico. We'll see where that. So again, one final thing before we talk about the experts, we have to remind people how this series actually works. And the only thing that's really important to remember about how the series works is that you have basically 24 hours to watch the sessions, right? So each of the sessions is one per quarter. So we had the design session in February, instructor right now, ed tech, data science in July, and innovation. If you're listening to me right now because you got an email because you signed up, you're signed up for all of them. And we will notify you, when in July, when everything's ready for July, and also again in October when everything happens. Atticus, welcome. Atticus Wallace from New Mexico, USA. That's where I was born. Sweet. Fantastic. Welcome in Albuquerque. So we have the 4 sessions, and then inside each of the 4 sessions, there's multiple presentations. As I said, over the next 36 hours, we're going to have 13 presentations from people from around the world. Each of those presentations are going to be available to everyone for free for 24 hours, a little bit more than 24 hours, because we have a global audience, we actually bleed out the time a little bit more so that, if the presentation's live in, the evening in the United States, we want to make sure that everybody around the world has the full 24 hours to actually view it. So let's call it 36 hours. But then once those 36 hours are over, those 24 hours are over, all of those presentations go into our all access pass vault. And that's just, that's just a way for us to make sure that content is put in a place where it has the most value, where we're building a community that's really, really interested in that content, and, actually interested in having continuing on those conversations. The community itself is always free. So elearnsuccessseries.com/community. That's always free for you to join and join the conversation. But what's really, really interesting is if you miss the free sessions, or you want to be able to review them, or maybe you only have time to check out 2 or 3 of them, you can always get the all access pass. if again, once you signed up, you saw the advertisement for how much it costs. Jump in at the the lowest price there, and you get the same content, as everybody else, which is all of the 2020 sessions, all of the 2021 sessions. So right there, that's more than 100 presentations. And then you have the February design session. There's another, 10. You're going to have another 13. Like, we're talking by the end of this year, you're going to have 150 presentations from experts in e-learning about EdTech, about data science, about engagement, about design, about microlearning, about gamification, about, you name the topic. There are high quality presentations in there that are still super, super relevant to your game today as an instructor. Chris, anything you want to add to that before we jump into the speaker?
Well, the way that you put it kind of sounds overwhelming.
I thought it sounded pretty sexy myself.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize. I was just kind of doing the math in my head, like literally extemporaneously. Like, I was like, wow, 70 plus 30 plus. I was like, holy smokes, there's a ton of presentations in there.
Yeah, no, but I mean it like it sounds like that, and it could be, but I think we've also learned how to make the best of them. So, for example, if you join the VIP community, we try to discuss things. We have a lot of like one-on-one discussions, and on the live sessions that we have every week, we bring some of those up. So I think. To counter this possible feeling of feeling overwhelmed, we do a lot of efforts to understand what everyone needs at a given time, and we also try to build our own knowledge. And we're doing this right currently, trying to plug all those videos into this AI software. That hopefully will help us label them better
and connect,
and make them more approachable to everyone. Yeah,
I want to, I think it's really interesting that you talk about overwhelm, because I think it's a really good point. If I were to be given a library of 150 presentations, first of all, you ask yourself, where do you start? And then second, like, how do I get through this? I guess one thought is that we not only have the video presentations, but we also have MP3 versions of them. So, just sort of audio only presentations. So this is something you can throw in your podcast player, and, download 3 or 4 of them. You're out walking the dog, you are driving to work or whatever. You don't have to be sitting at your desk to consume them. Right? Like, this is something where, you want a thought piece for a little while. You just want to kind of think about it. All of them are in kind of presentation interview podcast style. So there's there's Q&A in all of them. So it's not just sort of one person droning on all the time. So I was thinking about ways to cut through that potential overwhelm. And then also, in the all access pass area, they're broken down by speaker and topic and whatnot. So it's kind of easy to see where you might want to go and what you might want to do.
And I didn't want to gloss over a comment by James. I think it's just about valuing the time of the audience. So it's some talks are longer than others. We try to make it all as substantial as possible. But one thing that we're also doing, and I just thought of this, we encourage you to check out our Instagram, like LMS Pulse on Instagram, because you're going to see a constant rotation of clips from all of the stuff that we've been doing, from the sessions, from interviews that Steven has done, from the podcast, and maybe from some of that you can also get. So
cool. So for those of you in the room right now, I just, as we dive into the experts that we have here, I'm always so surprised how quick this time goes. We're already 40 past the hour. Tell us about what isn't working for you or your school or your company with online learning these days. I'd love to know, really, like, what's the first 1 or 2 or 3 things that pop into your head? Like, this is a problem that we just can't seem to get solved, or this is this is the thing that haunts me every day, or this is my big fear, or, this is the hack that I have to do in order to work around. Like, I'd love to know. If you throw it in the chat there so we can see it, and I'd love to sort of riff back on that a little later. But Chris, let's dive into the experts about, who we have coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, so we start with Phil as customary.
Yep, Phil Miller. He's going to join me on the stage to kick everything off. He's our executive director at OpenLMS. He's been in the online learning game. One of his most famous quotes that I still take to heart, and I love it, is, an LMS never taught anybody anything, right? So we put so much emphasis on ed tech. We put so much emphasis on what's the new gadget, the new shiny object. And I think he cuts right to the chase when he says that, in that, the tech isn't going to teach anybody anything, but it can facilitate it. It can make it more efficient. It can help make it more fun. It can, provide options. But at the end of the day, the people we're talking to right now, the instructors, the people who build the content, the designers, that is what's ultimately going to have. And, he'll be kicking us off. After that, we have.
Yeah. The quote that I love the most about Phil is that he promotes events like this and the magazine and so on to lift all boats. So yes, you will see our logos, you will see ours mentioning, we have a couple of commercial breaks, but this is an open event. The talks will not force you to choose any one product, because he believes that if everyone does a better job, it's good for business.
100%. That's, open is in our title, is in our name. And it really is it's a philosophy. Sometimes I can remember, well, not this week, but last week we published our podcast with Ken Chapman from D2L. Direct competitor to OpenLMS, and people are like, "What? Are you kidding me?" But yeah, no, we have these conversations. It's fantastic. We're not here to sell. We're here to talk and discuss and talk. Speaking of which, so Nick Furman, he's going to be celebrating teachable moments in a time of change. This guy's fantastic. They call him Ranger Nick. He's from Georgia. My understanding is there will be animals involved in his presentation, which is fantastic. But this guy has over 1 million views of his TED Talk on, not of the exact nature, but of a similar nature about, how do we lift each other up and lift ourselves up as instructors. So I don't know exactly what to expect from Ranger Nick, but it's going to be fantastic to kick us off.
I expect a turtle at least.
I don't know. There could be a possum involved. I'm not sure. So Michael Vaughan is our next speaker after Nick. He is a customer support specialist here at OpenLMS, but he's also a dynamic speaker. Fantastic. He's going to be talking about 4 characteristics of accessible design. The way he describes it, accessibility can be approached. So one of the things that I was talking about recently, or one of the superpowers of instructors, accessibility and creating courses and lessons that are accessible to everyone. That's one of those superpowers of today, and not the future, but today. And he's going, he approaches it through a design challenge. So it's like, look, while you're actually building the course or building the lesson, design accessibility into it using universal design principles and whatnot. So I'm excited for that conversation.
Yeah, speaking of being viral and popular, he has this amazing. He's like over 300,000 followers on TikTok.
There you go.
But it has nothing to do with OpenLMS.
Does it have anything to do with learning? I don't know. We'll have to go check out his TikTok channel. I've heard this.
There's a lot about this Bluey, this TV show. This kids show, Bluey.
Okay. Jess Corinne is just an absolutely fantastic and dynamic speaker. We've had her on our podcast. We've had her on our hot seat. She works for a company called Learnfully. She is the head of educational services there. She is an absolute expert in neurodiversity and just the workings of the brain. And she's going to be talking about working memory as the springboard to learning, as you can see in the title there. This is definitely a presentation not to be missed, just simply because as we learn more and more about the working of the brain, we find out that just nobody really is normal, right? I mean, as normal as you might feel, we all have these little quirks and tics and things. And I love, just in like my reference is the last conversation we had with her in the hot seat and on the podcast about, even as an adult, what are you doing to recognize how you remember and how you process information? Like, do you do it consciously? Just that 10-minute part of our conversation was just like one of those things where I was like, whoa, like that really opened my eyes, and I'm excited for what she's going to put on the table tomorrow.
I'm closing the first block.
So yeah, so the last person or the last presenter for our part one of tomorrow's presentations is Ari Sauers. She's the director of training and customer success at a company called Respondus, which is one of our partners here at the series. And as you can see, there are flexible options for integrity and online testing. So Respondus, is a proctoring solution. And so how do we do this? This is a big concern for parents. It's a big concern for administrations and, certification bodies for, how do we do this well? And how do we do it in a way that we can really say, yes, this student took this test. But again, there's no sell here. So she's going to be talking about many different options for how you, ensure integrity when you're providing those really, critical, high, as they say, high stakes exams in online learning. So then after part one, we're actually going to, part of the feedback that we got was, look, give us a break. Let us go do something. Let us get some of our work done. Let us respond to our students. Let us do some part of the day. But also, other parts of the world want to participate live. And so that's going to take place from 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of flexibility in there. That's part one. And then remind me, is it 6 p.m.? Oh my gosh. At 6 p.m. Eastern in the United States, we're going to kick off part two.
Yeah, I believe AM Australia, Melbourne.
So it'll be the morning time in Australia. And the person who's going to be kicking us off is Vanessa Herron. She is absolutely delightful. She's a new speaker to me. We have not had her on the show or anything like that before, but we've had a great conversation. And what I love about her topic is that she said, look, what if I don't actually talk about how to be a better online instructor? What if we talk about when to actually, know how to use this superpower of when to use digital educational materials and when not to, when to actually just sort of be a traditional teacher and when to maybe not use that shiny object. We've seen her presentation. It's going to be a very interactive session. I really hope that we have a lot of people who show up to participate, because there's a lot of questions she wants to ask and, get that interactivity and that sort of almost workshop feeling in this presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really interactive. And
go ahead.
I just wanted to add that a very interesting thread in some of these talks is, when is it better not to use technology, not to connect through this? And I don't know, I find that a little funny that we're talking about when not to use technology. But if we really want the best outcomes of technology, of the experience as a whole, we need to know that there are times where we need to just step aside from them.
No, sure. I mean, but if we really think about it, I hope this is a part of the conversation tomorrow. I guess it will be tomorrow evening. Just one example that pops into my head, one of our favorite presenters, Britt Andrietta, one of her key examples is the pheromones that that interact between humans when you're in a physical place together, right? Like that isn't possible, when we're online. And so there are some things that we do, we are these social creatures. There is this electricity between us. And not only is that important for the socialization of things or, just sort of connecting at a community level, but, there are certain things where the rubber just has to hit the road and you have to get physical with it. Like, I mean, you can have a virtual simulation of repairing a car all day long, but at some point you actually got to get your hands dirty, get that grease on there, right? So our next speaker after Vanessa is a gentleman named Thomas Corner, who I'm excited for this conversation as well, simply because Thomas is not only a professor, but he's also the current chairperson of the Moodle Users Association. We have had him as well on the eLearn Hot Seat. Fantastic conversation. And he's going to present a picture of what education might look like in 2040. And I'll be watching it live, you as well, Chris, just like everybody else. But I'm very interested to see what his vision is for how will education happen, what will expectations be, and how will we participate, in, I guess, what, 25 years? Is that 2040? Something like that. The next person is also in Australia, a gentleman named David Bruce Porter. And David is going to be talking about how do you leverage micro-credentials as an instructor when you're either planning lessons or you're creating courses or you're thinking about diploma programs or you're thinking about how to put them into your institution? This is something that he's got a lot of experience with. And it's becoming more and more important in today's universe. We've seen this, as one of the sort of results of the pandemic, of how do we put micro-credentialing options into courses and classes and lessons so that we can connect students to ultimate professional outcomes. So that's going to be a really interesting conversation. And the final session of part 2 is our keynote speaker, which is Kevin Kelly. And he is the founder we have to change that. He is not the founder in chief of Learning Uncut. We'll have to change that. He is a teacher at San Francisco State University or University of San Francisco. I can't remember which permutation it is, but he's got a couple of books, and one of those books is Advancing Online Teaching, Creating Equity-Based Digital Learning Environments. And he's going to be walking us through what does it mean to create an equity-based digital learning environment. Again, his presentation, I've had the fortune to see it already. Super interactive, really, really practical, and offers a ton of opportunities for you to take pieces and immediately put them into your practice tomorrow. So, flying without a wire, I love it. Atticus, thank you very much for giving us that. So, your current challenge is building courses isn't intuitive for experienced curriculum designers. I'd love to unpack that a little bit. So someone who designs curriculum doesn't necessarily know how to build courses. Do I have that correct? And maybe you can throw that in there, throw your answer in the chat. Go ahead, Chris.
No, that reminded me of Thomas Corner, which I think is the Moodle Users Association continues to be an incredible example of community engagement and technological innovation. Because if you look back at whenever there's a new release of Moodle, LMS, open source software, of which some of our products are based on, every release there is like this great new feature, and turns out that this feature was proposed by a MUA member. It was voted on by all members. It was funded by the organization, and then it was built and packed into any Moodle release. So, and it's interesting that he's actually talking about the future. Like, I'm wondering how instrumental it's going to become the Moodle Users Association and these kinds of users associations when it comes to making just a much better technology product. And now I realize that I may not be that related to Eric's comment, but kind of is, because there's always these frustrations with technology. Sometimes people don't feel like their humanity is listened to when there's a new product out there. But I think MUA is one of those cases where that's not the case, because it's the same people who use the system, the ones who come up with these ideas to make a better system.
Fantastic. So after part 2 ends, we're actually going to take a very long break, and we're going to go through the night, and we're going to come back on May 5th in the western part of the globe. We'll start again at 10 a.m. Eastern on May 5th. And Chris, you're going to, with the special part about part 3 is it's todo en español.
Yeah, that's right. Although we've been trying some things where you're going to get live captions and you can get automated translations, which may or may not help, to be perfectly frank, but it's an experiment. So maybe if you don't have that great English on the first 2 sessions, you can enable live captions subtitle, and if you don't speak Spanish on Thursday, then maybe this will be helpful, I hope. So yeah, we start with Claudia. She's a friend of ours. She actually gave the presentation in 2 languages last year. She also has a very popular talk at TEDx Quito talk. I love that she considers herself an activist of educational change. She is the head of IDEA, which is, I think, a research institute of education, and the Shift Academy, which is more focused on online and digital learning experiences, both at the USFQ, which is kind of the top university in Ecuador. And her talk is not just a presentation or with a series of stories of how can we make a better practice of teaching and free time. For some people, including her, there is kind of a crisis of free time because there's so little of it sometimes. So she's going to talk and make this invitation of understanding better the role of leisure, of just rest in the cognitive and social and emotional development and learning. So I think this is a really great way to kick things off the Spanish session. And then we go with Sol Garcia. She's a very close related partner of OpenLMS for many years. She is our partner in Spain for Europe. And when we were talking about her presentation, she was telling us how there must be some kind of bargaining between who you are as a teacher and what you want to bring into a classroom that's online if you're not an online expert. It's okay for you to say no to technology in a way, but you should also be aware of certain structures and mindsets. So that's what her talk is going to be about. It's okay if you find yourself, skeptic or hesitant, but it's good that you know why or to what end in terms of the experience as a whole to make yourself a better teacher ultimately. It's going to be interesting, I think. And then we have like a two-sided discussion. These two guys are from Mexico. So first we have Paco. He's from Cancun, which I always envy that he lives there. And he talks about practices for success in live or synchronous learning on the corporate side. So he has a ton of experience of what's worked in corporate settings, work learning, corporate development, and so on. And then we have sort of the other side of the coin with Edrey Robles. He's also from Mexico, and he's going to talk about kind of the same issues, but in academia, so in universities and schools. And I'm really looking forward to see where the similarities are and where they end between those. Hopefully we'll get a panel with the two of them and a lot of people asking questions. So I think it's going to be fun. And then we wrap it up with Raul, which I don't have here, but I have here. 1 second. So Raul is the director of
Sumari.
Raul Rivera, yeah.
Shazam.
So another kind of ongoing discussion that we have is when it comes to assessments. And questions are, does the same thing apply when it comes to assessments? Should we talk about engagement in assessment? Should we talk about how to create a better experience when it comes to online learning, especially if it's something high stakes? So he's going to talk about it, how to get the best results on online exams through online, like remote supervision or proctoring. So I think that's a very good way to wrap the Spanish session and the whole event.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it's going to be, this is going to be 36 hours of fantasticness. I think it's going to be absolutely wonderful. Chris, because, we've had, I think we have a really easy solution to who we're going to give all access passes to. I think it's basically, it's the 5 or 6 people that we've had who've actually interacted with us today. I think everybody who's interacted should get an all access pass. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. So we'll look through the things here. So I want to, because we're already coming up to the hour here. I know that everybody's got families and everybody has work to do and lessons to, lessons to give and design and those kinds of things. So I want to make sure that we come back and sort of just take a few minutes here to thank our sponsors real quick. Do we have our sponsor slide somewhere over here somewhere?
Yes, we do.
Shazam. So I want to make sure that we thank obviously OpenLMS, what we work for. That's our platinum sponsor. IntelliBoard. If you have any questions or any ideas about how you want to implement and use the data that's in your EdTech, IntelliBoard Next is their latest product, and you don't even have to have an LMS, which is one of the great conversations we had with Amy last week or 2 weeks ago. About, they have a lot of ways to connect with all sorts of other different systems. iSpring and Respondus, design needs, and then proctoring needs. And then our other two are our bronze sponsors, which are Open Sesame, which is a content creation. If you have any content at all, any content needs at all, you should reach out to Open Sesame. And then Sumati, just as you mentioned there, they're also another assessment and proctoring company. They provide one of those solutions, and I'm happy to reach out to them or come to, in Respondus's case, you can come to Ari's talk, and in Sumati's case, come to Raul's talk, and you'll be able to connect with them directly. But why don't we wrap it up there? Unless anybody has any specific questions they want to ask for us about what's going to happen tomorrow, in a few short hours, 10, 11, 12 hours at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will be kicking this thing off with Dr. Nick Furman, Ranger Nick. I hope that you're right. I hope he brings a turtle, but I can't guarantee anything.
I like turtles.
Turtles are fantastic. Excellent. Both Chris and I will be there. So will hundreds, hopefully thousands of your other colleagues. So Anwar, Stweffi, who else was here? James.
Who's not a OpenLMS employee.
Exactly. Congratulations on winning an all access pass. We're really excited to have you, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern.
See you soon.